Good evening, everybody. I will be chairing tonight's meeting as Kathy Burkhart-Jess will not be here. I'll be acting mayor for our Tuesday, August 10th meeting. I'd like to call to order. Disclosure of any pecuniary interest in nature thereof. I want to note that Kathy Burkhart-Jessen has filed a declaration on item 5.2 tonight as a conflict of interest. Announcements. I'd like to welcome Jaden Hodgins. This will be his first council meeting tonight, full council meeting. Welcome, Jaden. Looking forward to you joining us. For myself, this is my first meeting, council meeting as chair through the new format of Zoom video. So hope everyone can be patient with me. I certainly want to ask staff to reach out, interrupt me if I've missed something or I need to correct something. Council members, if I don't see your hand and I've missed you, please speak up, as this is the first time I'm doing this way. So thank you. We don't have any closed session. We are going to go into our public meeting. I've got a motion here that council adjourn its regular meeting in order to sit as committee of adjustments under the Planning Act. If I get someone to move that. Moved by Daniel, seconded by Alex. All opposed? That's passed. Our first, we have a consent application B-6-2021 by Van Giel Building Company, 197 Water Street. Dan, if you'd like to speak to that.
Yeah, through the chair, the members of the committee. So the application that is before committee tonight is a consent from council to sever a residential lot from an existing parcel of land in Lucan, which is located at 197 Water Street, with the effect of establishing a new residential lot that would accommodate the future sale of two separate semi-detached dwellings, which are currently under construction.
There was nobody that registered. Oh, sorry, started sharing the screen.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead, Dan, sorry.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, did you want to go through the preamble first before?
No, you continue. Sorry, I spoke when I shouldn't have.
No problem. Just share my screen so everyone can see the lands that we're talking about there. So the applicant, the subject property is a 539 square meter parcel, which is situated on the west side of Water Street, south of the intersection at Water Street and Main. The property currently contains a semi-detached dwelling, as mentioned, is under construction, and does maintain its own access to Water Street, as well it is on municipal services. The applicant is requesting consent to sever a lot that would have a frontage of approximately 7.7 meters along Water Street and an area of approximately 268.7 square meters. The remnant residential parcel would have a frontage of approximately 7.4 meters along Water Street and an area of approximately 259 square meters. The lands are designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in the township official plan, and they are zoned a residential second density R2 zone in the zoning bylaw. As you can see on the map, there is a large portion of land that is regulated by the Conservation Authority and is included as a flood fringe area. So notice of the application was circulated to agencies as well as property owners in accordance with the Planning Act. One letter was received from a concerned resident, which was included as an attachment to the planning report. The municipality did not receive correspondence from the Sauble Bayfield Conservation Authority. However, it was previously noted that the subject lands did get a Section 28 permit from them to construct the buildings, and that they should have no further comment on the Principal policy statements, county official plan, as well as the local official plan generally do permit lot creation and does promote infill and intensification to achieve growth objectives within the existing settlement boundaries, where it is deemed essentially appropriate. So policy also generally speaks to servicing hierarchies and clarifies that development should proceed within settlement areas, which is on full municipal services. So in this case, the lands would be municipally serviced and would be required as a condition of the consent. The proposed parameters of the lot would meet the existing zoning standards in terms of frontage and area, and they would represent a good opportunity for infill development. This type of development generally is the preferred form, as it does promote a more efficient use of land and infrastructure while reducing the needs for an expansion of the settlement area boundary. Given the above, planning staff are recommending that the subject application be approved, subject to the conditions that are outlined in the planner's report. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
All right, no, thank you, Dan, for that. The applicant is on the online. Did the applicant have anything to say?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Manders. At this point in time, no particular comments on my end. I think Dan did a good job explaining what it is we're trying to do. So,
all right, no, thank you. Nobody registered from the public on this, so I'll turn it over to council if they had any questions. It is pretty straightforward, but nope. Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Dan, sorry, can you just mention again what, if any, the issue was with the soluble Bayfield? I think I missed that. Or did you mention?
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Reagan. So there is no issue with the soluble Bayfield Conservation Authority. Okay. They previously issued a Section 28 permit for the development of the semi-detached dwelling. So they don't have a concern related to the severance of the lands.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Seeing no other questions, I'm going to ask that council accept the planner's recommendation. If I could have someone move that and second that. Moved by Jaden Hodgins, seconded by Alex Westman. All opposed? Passed. All right, I'm going to now ask that the committee does now rise and move into a public meeting at 6:07 under Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, to consider the following application: zoning bylaw ZBA 9-2021 and draft plan of vacant land condominium 39T-LBC DM 2102, Michael Fletcher owner, 7966 Fallen Drive, Granton. If I could get somebody to move and second that. Moved by Daniel. Seconder. Alex, all opposed? That's carried. I will pass this over to Dan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and to all members of council. The report that is before council tonight in this public meeting is to fulfill the public meeting requirement for a vacant land condominium application, which is 39T CDM 2102, and as well as a concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application, which is ZBA 9/2021, for the development of a subdivision that is known as Granton Estates. The applicant is proposing a plan of subdivision which encompasses an undeveloped parcel of land, which is located on the west side of the village of Granton. So as noted, the applicant's concurrent application for vacant land condominium draft plan approval includes the following. It includes the creation of 26 vacant land condominium lots on a 1.13 hectare area. One block for common property elements, which includes visitor parking areas, amenity areas, as well as a private road, and that encompasses about approximately 0.47 hectares. And it's just more of a note that there is an existing 5-meter wide stormwater management, sanitary easement running along the east interior side yard, which backs onto the existing development to the west side of King Street. Okay, so I hope everyone can see that there. The subject property as a whole is approximately 1.6 hectares or 3.94 acres in area, and it is located on the north side of Fallon Drive, west of the intersection of Fallon Drive and Granton Line, or County Road 59 in Granton. All of the subject land included within the proposed vacant land condo are within the existing settlement area of Granton. The lands are surrounded with existing agricultural vacant lands to the north and west, and existing residential lots of low density single-family homes to the east and south. The lands are designated settlement area, urban and community in the Middlesex County official plan, residential in the township Lucan Biddulph official plan, and they are zoned a residential first density R1 zone in the township of Lucan Biddulph comprehensive zoning bylaw. The lands currently contain an existing single detached dwelling, as well as associated accessory buildings. The applicant is proposing to include the existing dwelling as a unit within the vacant land condominium, along with 25 additional building lots. The applicant is proposing that development be serviced by existing municipal water and sanitary services. Additionally, storm servicing and stormwater management are proposed to utilize the Riddle McCarthy drain west of the site as the stormwater outlet. The applicant's report notes that the recent improvements to the flow rate as well as on-site detention will control post-development flow through the pre-development rates. So as noted and depicted on the plan, the developer is seeking to establish 26 vacant land condominium units or lots, as well as common property amenity blocks, which do include a private road, visitor parking area, as well as an identified amenities area, which we don't have details on yet as to what's going to be provided in that space. In order to accommodate the request, the applicant has submitted a concurrent zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject lands. The site is currently zoned a residential first density R1 zone in the zoning bylaw. So as depicted on the concept plan, which is included in the planning report, the lands are proposed to be rezoned from R1 to a site-specific R1 zone, including a holding provision. So as presented by the applicant, the zone would permit a reduced lot area, reduced lot frontage requirements, increased maximum lot coverage, reduced exterior side yards, reduced rear yards, as well as introduce a minimum landscaping requirement and add a maximum parking / driveway coverage requirement. The applicant has also included a site-specific holding provision, which would require the full execution of a condominium agreement by the applicant and township prior to any development on the lands. The exception zone as identified in the planning information report seeks the following. So a minimum reduction of lot area from 460 square meters to 390 square meters per unit, a reduction in minimum lot frontage from 15 meters to 12 meters per unit, an increase to the maximum lot coverage from 40% to 45%, a reduction from the exterior side yard from 3.5 meters to 3 meters, a reduction to the minimum rear yard setback from 7 meters to 6, as well as to add an a minimum outdoor landscaping requirement of 40%, and to add a maximum parking coverage requirement of 15% per unit. The Middlesex County official plan does identify Lucan as well as Granton as settlement areas and defers to the local municipal official plan to delineate the boundaries of that settlement area. The lands that are subject to this application are within the settlement area of Granton and are designated residential within the township official plan. Planning staff have reviewed the proposal against the PPS, the county official plan, as well as the local official plan. Several policies have been identified and included in the planning report, which will be utilized to prepare a recommendation for council. These policies will be analyzed further in a subsequent meeting and reported to council when a recommendation is brought forward. Notice of the application was also circulated to agencies as well as property owners in accordance with the Planning Act requirements. The township will continue to receive correspondence from stakeholders and agencies as we move through the process. The township has received 3 written responses to date with respect to the application, which have also been included with the staff report. These comments will be taken into consideration as well as addressed as part of the recommendation report that will be brought back to council at a later date. So given the above, staff are recommending that council receives the planning report as information. And we look forward to hearing from the public tonight, as well as the developer, to gather feedback, to bring back a report as. Thank you, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions you may have, any preliminary ones, and I look forward to any discussion.
Okay, I'm going to see if the applicant, I've got listed here Randy and Rick. I'm not sure if Mike's on the phone, but if the applicants, if anybody at this time would like to speak to this on the applicant's side. Go ahead, Rick. Just have to unmute.
I'm one of those technologically challenged individuals that
No
has
problem.
had a steep learning curve over the last while. I've gone through Mr. Fitzgerald's report with the agenda package that was published. I've gone through the comments. There's nothing in the comments that, quite frankly, surprised me. A lot of those comments were directed to issues of people losing their sense of view across the fields. And again, I would remind committee that the lands are designated for development and for residential use. Some of the comments are directed toward this being a high density urban proposal. We're all required to do more with less land. That's the directive of the province through the provincial policy statements. It's a directive of the county official plan, and certainly a directive of the township official plan. We appreciate that a lot of the existing lot fabric in Granton was based on septic service. Those lots of necessity were substantially larger than what we need in terms of land when it's fully serviced. In terms of the servicing issues, our engineer, Anthony Gobbles, has worked with the municipality, and they've identified quite a number of issues. Anthony has addressed those in his reporting that accompanied the application. The one thing that we have agreed to, in lieu of conducting a full traffic study, we've agreed to a bypass lane on Fallon Drive. And that was as a request from the county engineer. Dan, I think that summarizes how that condition was dealt with. I leave it in your hands. I'm not sure what more I can add. Certainly the homes would be of a modern, appropriate design. On a vacant land condominium, as the committee knows, the condominium corporation is responsible for street cleaning, maintenance, and all of the issues that the municipality would normally be dealing with on a subdivision. The VLC is slightly different than that, and all of the unit owners or lot owners in the VLC would participate. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I accept Dan's report, by the way. It was fair and I think echoed some of the major points that I've raised and needed to be raised.
I think.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
No, sorry. No, I was just going to say no, thank you. Or not sorry. I didn't know if you're done there. Sorry.
Just to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Yep. I'm going to let council know how I'm going to handle this from here. From what Rick currently has said, and Dan, if there's anything specific to that they'd like to comment on. Otherwise, I'll be reaching out to the public first and then circle back to council, because maybe some of the public questions, if they get answered or get addressed, you may not have a question or may get answered. Also, from the people from the public, if you've registered and you don't have anything more to add or don't want to speak when Lisa does call your name, I'm going to let her call everyone forward. Feel free to say you have no comment. If something's been said and you concur with that, rather than repeating it, feel free to say you concur with what was said. And then we'll go back to council. I want to remind everybody this is for information. There won't be any vote tonight. This will be taken for information only. Does anybody have any questions currently what was discussed by the two gentlemen? Seeing none. I only had one question, Dan, just so people know, if at the end of the meeting, how long are comments accepted for brought forward? How many days do people have before it would be considered too late? Just so people know if they decide they don't want to comment through this avenue.
Yeah, through the chair, to all members. So generally, we would accept comments up until the public meeting. However, with these types of applications, we understand that it does take some time, maybe for individuals to formulate their opinion, especially after the public meeting. So we will accept comments up to an additional 2 weeks after this meeting tonight, which would be August 24th, at which point we will be working towards finalizing a recommendation to bring forward to council at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, then, so what I'll do is I'll have you ask each person that's asked to participate if they currently have anything to say. After that, I will, if there's a question in particular to Dan or Rick, I think we'll try to maybe answer that question. And then I'll have you move through each of the people.
First on our registered list was Harry Foster. If he would like to unmute, if he has anything to say.
Hi.
Go ahead, Harry.
I have a few questions. How are they going to provide for the schooling with all of these extra homes that Lucan has, and now they're going to build another subdivision in Granton, and the school that we already currently have is overcrowded?
Now, do you want to, Harry, do you have do you want to go through all your comments, or is that your one comment? Or
Well, I have some other comments too, but
do that one first.
yeah.
That is, we don't, Dan, do you want to answer that? Try to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So through the chair to Mr. Foster, generally speaking, so Thames Valley does get circulated on all planning applications that are submitted to all local municipalities. They are aware of the application. Certainly at this point in time, there's no decision being made on any of it, but they are required to accommodate any student population within their local jurisdiction. So they have not indicated that in this particular instance, a zone may be applied to the property. However, I've yet to hear from them. So I know we did have former applications where they did indicate a holding zone may be required. But I know that Thames Valley is actively working towards additional accommodation within the Lucan Granton area right now, actively. So I'm not sure they would maybe necessarily have a concern with that at this point in time.
Okay. My other concern is whether our sewer system is adequate enough to support the extra residentials.
Would you like Jeff to take this, or would you sooner take it, Dan? Jeff?
Yeah, through the chair. The sanitary system right now has capacity. We're running just slightly under half. So there's not a concern right now at the plant for this development, the size of this development. And there is, we are keeping a close eye on Grant and making sure it's running properly, but no, there's no concern for the capacity of the plant.
My other concern is how, like, the sewer line runs right behind my property. How close are these houses going to be to my backyard, given that that sewer line runs right through, like 5 feet off my property line, if that?
Yeah, and through the chair, there is an easement there that the municipality has the right to maintain the sanitary line. That's going to have to be maintained. There's no doubt about that. It's a very important easement that we have. So if Dan wants to answer exactly how far off that is, but there is that easement and it will be maintained.
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Foster again. So the existing easement there is a 5-meter wide easement on the eastern boundary of the properties that back on basically off of King Street. So the developer would not be able to develop within that specific area where that existing sanitary line is. They are proposing a 6-meter setback from the rear yard, which would essentially allow a development to be at 1 meter off the back of the easement.
So that's 15 meters plus a meter.
Sorry, yeah, the easement's 5 meters plus 1 meter would give them the 6 meters.
Okay. So another question would be, is there any proposal to build the residents on our street any privacy fencing?
Dan, would that be through site plan?
Through the chair, so the applicant has not indicated that at this point in time, but if that's something that would be important to the public, I would suggest that you raise that as a point from the public opinion.
I know just from talking to my fellow neighbors that if this is a done deal and we have to settle for it, that we'd feel a lot better if we had some kind of a privacy fence that we don't feel that we should have to pay for.
So Dan, that'll be noted now from this meeting, I assume.
Through the chair, yeah, we'll be so based on that comment, we'll add that to the comment list. The applicant.
Thank you, Harry, for that. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And that's everything, Harry, for now.
I can't think of anything right now.
Thank you. Lisa?
The next person would be calling in on the 902 phone number. If they could identify themselves, if they have any questions. Okay, seeing none, we'd move over to Chris Simmons.
Hi, I think I finally got it unmuted. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
no.
Yeah,
Thank
go
you.
ahead and identify yourself, please, as well.
Okay, it's Andrea Chisholm. I guess I'm a little bit challenged with this. I've never done with phone in like this. So I apologize for that. Thank you for taking the time. I sent in a written submission outlining a number of my concerns and my questions. I guess the main thing is, I guess, number one, we're putting a high density development in the middle of farmland and a farm community. I mean, our main industry is our grain elevators, right? This is a farming district. So I'm a little bit worried about wastewater management, the pollution aspect of it. I think I took a little bit of aback by the comment about the landowners are worried about losing their sense of view across the field. There's far more at stake to this proposal than losing a view. I mean, we can always walk to an open area to see a view. But when you talk about the number of people that would be populating a small area of land right in the middle of farmland, there's a lot of concerns about pollution. Pollution from the asphalt, from the water, and also noise pollution. You know, that we've had bylaws against mini bikes and the sort, and I'm thinking 26 lawnmowers, 26 leaf blowers, 26 snow blowers, 26, you know what I mean? It would be a lot. And but people have 2 cars, so you're adding potentially 50 or more vehicles coming and going. So I'm a little concerned for the farmland and the pollution aspect of it. And I think the greater thing is the precedent it will set to small farming communities throughout the region. If this is approved, then that'll set a precedent that developers can come in and do the same type of development in every small town and village in the area. So I think council needs to be aware of that. I also highly value our council members and our administrators and the official plan that they put forward for our community. And when people are moving into an area, they look at those official plans. They look to our community leaders to say, okay, where is our community going? How is it going to be developed? Are we going to maintain the integrity of the village? And right now, I think there is an opportunity to maintain the integrity of the village if the development, any development that's in the village, like this small area development, was in line with, it was contiguous with the rest of the housing around it. And I noticed in the official plan that any more high density developments was really recommended to be south of the train tracks, which would make sense. So I guess it's just a deviation. I mean, why do we have all of you here to make decisions and to represent us and to put together an official plan? And I know those are recommendations, but they're recommendations, and people invest their time, their money, and their hearts into where they live based on those plans. And I think it will, if this is allowed, it will completely change the nature of Granton, why people come to Granton. I mean, people come to live in the country in a small village for the types of houses there, you know, the community spirit. There's a lot that goes with a small village.
Oh, Andrea.
And I think this would change it. Yes.
Now, do you just want to make sure, do you have just so I don't want to lose sight of what you've said, and you did submit that will be registered as part of this, the letter, but do you have any specific question that you'd like answered, just so I can get that addressed if you have one? That's all. And then if not, then I want to move on to the next person. If you have I want to take care if you have a specific question.
Sure. Well, I did have a number of specific questions in my written submission, so I don't think I need to repeat them because they're all there that they can be addressed. And I basically was just outlining the highlights of the overall. I mean, the letter has the details, but that's my kind of global concern.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
we'll definitely, when Dan goes to form his recommendation, all those are taken into account. And we'll be, certainly council has read that also, and then certainly that'll draw, questions from council as well. So yes.
Great.
Great. No, thank you. And Lisa?
Yep. Up next, I'd ask Chris Simmons if he has any questions.
I got nothing right now that hasn't been said.
Thank you.
And that's everyone. Thank you.
I see Dan's got his hand up.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, to maybe we can just clarify from Mr. Simmons if he agrees with what's been said so far, or if he's in disagreement with that, just for clarification for the public record.
No, I agree with it all.
Thank you.
Of what was it? Thank you. All right. Now I'm going to ask council if they have any questions. Alex?
Yeah, I've spoken to quite a few people in town over the last months since this was first proposed. And I think there's a common thread of what's concerning to them, not the least of which is wastewater management and stormwater management. I mean, this is a development that could potentially add a fair bit of load to both. Now, I did hear something about this might be a bit of an issue for the pumping station, and I'm not sure what that's all about exactly, but there's that. So the other obvious concerns are privacy in the backyards and on King Street. This is a big change for everybody, and I think that now that we have that, I'm grateful that Mr. Foster was able to bring that up about putting in a privacy fence, because that seems to be a pretty common theme for the people along King Street to have some privacy. I mean, it's a big change. They lose their view, but they don't want to have, the view into someone's backyard or what have you. As for changing the nature of what Granton is, I mean, I'm the 5th generation of my family living there, and there's been a lot of change. We had some infilling of lots here a few years ago. There's been changes in the nature of different properties, and I don't see that there's been a lot of catastrophic change. We've certainly maintained our small town feel. And I can speak to that because, it's my home too. Not to diminish anyone's concerns on that, but it is, I think the town spirit is in the people, not in the buildings. So, this is 25 new homes. It's a big shock for the community. It's a large percentage of the number of houses there. It's a big add-on for that. It's like 17% or 16% of what we have already being added on. So obviously a lot of concern, a lot of changes that, making people feel uncomfortable, but we need to mitigate those concerns simply by doing some simple things like, we've assured people that the waste treatment plant will handle it. I think the bigger concern is people are concerned that it's going to come back and bite them as far as there's going to be additional costs. And I don't want to see that either as a resident and as a councillor. The waste stormwater management, we've had some big rains in the last little while, and that has affected a lot of properties with standing water and surface water, as well as basement flooding. So we want to be sure that that's not going to change and get worse just because of this development. So, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of the same concerns from a broad spectrum of the town. Not just people that live along King Street, but there's people all through town and in the area that have concerns. I'm hoping that we can assuage some of those concerns through, information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, hopefully mitigate them. Thank you. Harry, I'm going to wait in case, if it's all right, maybe. Well, you go ahead, Harry. You got your hand up. I'm going to go through council because maybe why you have your hand up might get addressed by council. So I'm going to go through council first, and then I'll try. So go ahead, council members. Anyone else like to comment or have a question? Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just for Dan Fitzgerald. Dan, I was just doing research, and I just wanted to just confirm the subject property has been designated like residential development for, I've got since before like 1999. Does it go, is it longer than that, or?
Through the chair, Councilor Reagan, I'm not exactly sure when the designation was placed on the land, but it was prior to amalgamation with Granton amalgamation with Lucan Biddulph.
Right.
It's
okay.
something
All
that's
right.
been carried forward into the new official plan.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Any other council? Jaden?
Thank you. I was just going to ask is if in the township of Lucan Biddulph, if we've seen a similar style of development with the condo corporation, and maybe some questions around that, whether the condo is responsible for, the future maintenance of the sewers on that block and the water services on that block, or does it all stay private as well as the road maintenance and eventual renewal?
Dan or Jeff?
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Hodgins. So maybe I'll start off, and then if Jeff wants to address anything beyond that, he can start as well. So so Lucan Biddulph has seen fairly recently a few vacant land condominium developments, not in the format of single detached dwellings though, primarily in the format of townhomes. And a good example of that would be the Ridge Crossing townhomes that are currently under construction in Lucan. So one of the aspects of vacant land condominiums is that the infrastructure within an actual subdivision is owned privately and not by the township. What that means is that any future maintenance of the infrastructure within the confines of the condo is their responsibility to upgrade and maintain. So that's similar to their like servicing. So garbage and waste collection would be private unless they reach an agreement with the township to do that for them. Similarly, snow removal would be a private requirement, and any upgrades or maintenance to any on-site infrastructure that services the units would also be privately their actual condominium corporation. Jeff, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add to that.
No, I think you did well, and through the chair, I just touch on stormwater because that seems to be one of the ones that everybody's kind of mentioned a little bit. And there is an outlet for this property. It is a municipal drain, which is an agricultural drain. Through the servicing of this, they'll have to control and develop a stormwater management plan that recognizes the drain as an agricultural drain. So they'll have plenty of control over their stormwater. And again, just to relate it back, it will be a private stormwater system on site that the residents or the property will have to maintain. It will not be municipality stormwater facilities. So I'll just.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Jayden?
Yeah, just to follow, thanks for the comments there on the stormwater. That was another question I had. But I guess also with the it being kind of private road, just maybe potential concerns that at the back there where they have that hammerhead emergency access, if that were to be used as sort of like a parking lot sort of thing for some of the houses closer to the back, would the township have the ability to enforce that any parking infractions, or would that be also on the condo board to manage that?
Through the chair. So yeah, technically speaking, because it is a private site, it's up to the condominium corporation to enforce. However, the condominium, it's kind of a situation where the fire authority still has the ability to go out there and ticket and issue warnings, but it's on the condominium corporation to enforce that. So generally speaking, we would see through the development of a vacant land condominium, the requirement for identification of what's referred to as a fire route and the installation of fire route signage. So that clearly marks and dictates where people can and cannot park. In this particular instance, they would not be able to park anywhere on the roadway, and that's why they are providing the additional visitor parking stalls at the front of the site to help alleviate that problem moving forward.
Anything else right now? My one comment or question was on the easement on the sewer. On it's always, if this is approved, it's never an issue the first year or 2 years, but 20 years from now, when the township has to come in, maybe dig it up and somebody's planted a tree or put a deck over something or has impeded that easement. So controlling that easement, I assume at the sale of those properties, that's on the deed of the property, and that if anything is obstructing that and noticed, that the township would have the ability, I guess the condo board would take care, make sure that doesn't happen. Because again, to me, it's never an issue until it's an issue. When it's an issue, it's a big issue. So if staff could address that. I see Rick has his hand up. Would you like me to pass it to Rick, Dan, to have him comment on that?
Yeah, sure. You can have Rick address that for sure, and then if anything, I can comment on it afterwards.
Okay, go ahead, Rick. Oh, you're just on mute, Rick. There you go.
There we go. Again, I plead technologically challenged.
No problem.
There would be restrictions in the condominium documents about any encroachments onto that that easement. It may be agreeable for patio stones to encroach 2 meters or whatever, because they can be removed easily without any difficulty for the municipality, should they have a need to go in and service that sanitary. Alternatively, there may be restrictions in that the municipality may say, we want no encroachments on that easement whatsoever. And if that's the case, that's the way the condominium documents would be constructed. And those would be, those are registered on title and enforceable by the condominium corporation.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question, Dan. I will circle back to the public if they have a specific question, and also remind them that, again, any submissions we see as council and can be submitted after this, as Dan has laid that out. But if something has popped up and you have a specific question, please raise your hand or pop on. Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to how this is going to change our tax structure. Like, I feel that our taxes are quite high, consider the amenities that we have compared to Lucan. And I really can't foresee that they should be climbing any higher than they already are.
Okay. So you've got a tax question on if how that, well, yeah, I won't answer that. I mean, I'll have staff. I don't know, Ron Raymer, if he wants to chime in on that, I guess. I don't, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Deputy Mayor, if I can, maybe I'll take a try at answering that. So, Mr. Foster, your property taxes are based on the value of your property as determined by the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. So the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, or MPAC for short, is a separate organization. The township doesn't control that. So I guess the question to them is, or that you may pose to them, is if you think your property is worth less once the new development is up, then that's the question you would pose to them. I think history tells us that it doesn't devalue your property. If anything, it actually pushes your value up because there's more, and they're brand new houses. Who doesn't want a brand new house beside them? So it's based on the value of the property. And while right now you might think that it's not going to be a bonus to you, it may very well in the end push your value up, which you may not be too happy with either. I don't know, but at this point, there's nothing really that the township can do to answer that question. That's a question that has to be answered by MPAC.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anything else on a question?
No, I guess not.
Okay. So again, this is for information only. Dan has laid everything out. So I am going to ask that that the report number PL-22-2021 be received for information. I'd like someone to move that and second that. Moved by Jaden, seconded by Alex. All opposed, and that's passed. Now I'm going to ask for a motion to convene into regular council meeting. If I could please get someone to move that. Alex and Daniel, all opposed, and that's passed. So we're in regular council meeting now. Apologize to my council members. I've realized I've been calling you by your first names, not counselor by your last names. Can't promise it won't happen again. Could be called worse. So we'll continue on with the meeting. Thanks. Adoption of the minutes. Oh, delegations, presentation, none. Adoption of the minutes. Recommended motion that the regular council meeting minutes of July 13th, 2021 and special meeting minutes of July 20th and July 29th, 2021 be approved as circulated and amended. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Reagan, Councillor Hodge, moved by Councillor Reagan, seconded by Councillor Hodgins, all opposed. That's passed. Business arising from the minutes? I don't think there was anything. All ongoing. We will go to number 9, correspondence. Who is going to take 9.1, Ron?
I think Tina was going to speak to that one.
Okay.
Tina, Mayor.
Thank you. It's for you, Deputy Mayor. There was a request received from MJ's Roadhouse just for an exemption from our noise bylaw for Saturday, August 28th. That is the weekend that Summerfest is planned by the township and the Discover Lucan Biddulph. There are events happening on Friday night and Saturday, and MJs are wanting to coincide with that and continue to have live music on the Saturday evening, beginning at 8 p.m. till 12:30 p.m. or 12:30 a.m.
Okay. Any questions for Tina on that? Seeing none, I'm going to read out the recommended motion. Whereas MJ's Roadhouse will be hosting a music event on Saturday, August 28th, 2021, and whereas an exemption from the Township of Lucan Biddulph's noise bylaw number 24-2017 is required to allow for noise which may surpass the allow levels during the hours of 8 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. Therefore, be resolved that the provisions of the noise bylaw shall not apply during the hours of 8 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. for the music event taking place at 269 Main Street on August 28th, 2021. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Westman, seconded by Councillor Reagan. All opposed? And that's passed. 9.2, I believe, Ron, you're going to just speak to that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The annual Warden's Charity Golf Tournament will be held this year. It was canceled last year, so we've actually been fortunate that it's been pushed back to September. So the date is September, I believe it's September 16th, which is a Thursday. So anyone who's interested in supporting, obviously the Warden is our mayor, Kathy Burkhardt-Jessen, so we are very happy to support her. If anyone is interested in participating, please let Tina or myself know, and we will prepare the proper motion for the next council meeting.
Okay. Well, thank you. And it'll be good to support that with our mayor being the warden. 9.3, Ron, is that going to be you also?
Yes, I can speak to that one as well, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We were a little disappointed to hear or read this correspondence from Emergency Management Ontario. The annual emergency exercise will not be waived for 2021. It was waived for 2020, but for whatever purpose or whatever reasons, they are not willing to waive that annual exercise requirement for 2021. So that means Bettina Weber, our county emergency management coordinator, will be having to organize some sort of tabletop. I believe it will be a tabletop exercise for the Emergency Management Committee, and that will be held in the fall.
Okay. Does balance the correspondence, does anyone have anything else to speak to on the balance? Paul?
Yes, thank you for you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to bring attention to the Best First Day community-wide school supplies drive put on by the County of Middlesex. It's a drive to collect school supplies for elementary and secondary schools, and it'll be they'll be collecting until September 3rd, 2021 at the Dorchester, Glencoe, Lucan, and Park Hill Library. So anyone who has any supplies would like to donate, please do so. And for more information, please go online to bestfirstday.ca.
Well, thank you. Anything else from anybody? Seeing none. Motion that items 9.1 through 9.4.
Sorry, Dave, I think Jaden Hodgins had a question.
Sorry. Yep, Jaden, good.
Yeah, just a question on one of the balance of correspondence. There was the letter from the Minister of Infrastructure about the ICIP funding for drinking water projects, and just wondering if we had any potentially eligible projects that we'd be submitting an application for under that program.
Probably between Ron and Jeff, I'm guessing maybe.
Yeah, I'll maybe defer to Jeff, but Jaden, Councillor Hodgins, we're actually pretty well serviced, touch wood, for water supply and everything. So I don't think there's anything on the horizon. I do believe, if I remember correctly, that their focus was going to be on Indigenous stakeholders. But regardless of the, we really don't have any water projects that are in the immediate future. Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we have any.
No.
No,
Okay.
and through the deputy mayor, no, I agree with you, Ron. I think you covered it. We did, for Councillor Hodges, we did have a meeting about this, and we did look into it and looked into a couple things, but it didn't quite fit our schedule right now.
Thank you, Jaden and Tina there for letting me know there that you had to speak. Recommended motion items, that's everything. Items 9.1 through 9.4 correspondence be received for information. If I get someone to move that, second that. Moved by Councillor Westman, seconded by Councillor Hodgins. All opposed? That's passed. Committee reports, Blue Water Recycling, we meet later on in the month. CEDC.
No update. Thank you.
Nope. Lake Huron, nothing. Fire boards, I don't believe anything, Ron. Nope. ABC, Upper Thames, Alex.
Not till the end of the month, so I'll have a report in September.
Okay. Parks and Recreation.
We're trying to set up a meeting August 19th.
Alrighty. Staff reports. I've got, I believe it's Paul that's going to take 11.1A. I believe it does say Ron, but I think Paul is going to take that. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you through you, Deputy Mayor. The purpose of this report is to be received as information, update on the soccer field complex. On July 23rd, 2021, the Township of Lucan Biddulph completed the purchase of just under 17 acres of land at the north end of Campanelli Way from the developers of Ridge Crossing subdivision for a purchase price of $18,000 an acre. AGM surveyors have completed a topographical survey required in order for engineer to design the layout of the lands, and Dillon Consultant has begun on the design work based on the input from Lucan minor soccer and municipal staff. The basic design calls for 4 full fields with one full-size field convertible for mini field use, and another of the 4 fields will be considered a premier field. A premier field needs separately fenced and hopefully will only be used for games, not practices, and to ensure it remains in good working condition, as it will be a higher quality field, and it would also require lighting as well as proper bleachers. The tender will also call for a sprinkler system on at least the 1 premier field, and with provisions for extending the water to the other 3 fields. We're still working on ideas and plans for a building for the site, but this can remain at a later date, as the idea is to move forward with this project, get the fields built and get grass down. So that would be something probably at a later date that we'll focus on. We are hoping for next week to have a draft plan to review, and we are anxious to get moving on this.
Very good. I see the boss has showed up. That's good. That's good. I don't know if we change the reins here, or if I'll finish this off. But you know what I've been doing, Madam Mayor? I've been calling them by their first name by accident.
Really?
I know, and I felt awful, but I continued to do it.
Oh, I see. Things have then taken a more relaxed approach with you in the chair.
Well, I don't know. I realized that, and then I tried to correct it, but I've been back and forth on it. So
you know, every chair, you know, puts their own spin on it. So
yeah, you betcha. So I said they could be called worse than that. So I'll finish this off, Madam Mayor. Then do you want to take over from there?
Sure.
Okay. So any question that very, very exciting for our community. It's just an incredible purchase. So anyways, council, anybody have anything for Paul on that? we're going to be taking that report for information. So I am going to recommend a motion that report CAO-13-2021 be received for information. If I get someone to move that. Councillor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Reagan, all opposed, and that's passed. And I will move things on 11.2 to Kathy. Madam Mayor, there I go again.
Well, thank you very much, Dave, or Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you for chairing the meeting up until now. And I do apologize for joining, being a little late for tonight's meeting. I did want to, before I get too far into it, before I forget, declare a pecuniary interest in the item 5.2, the zoning bylaw application for the lands in Granton. I have a family member that works for the firm that does the engineering, is doing the engineering on that proposed development. And I did give the paperwork I left the paperwork with Tina's office. So, okay, so moving on.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just so you know too, I did make that notation at the start of the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know, thank you. Just so that people knew. Yep.
Yep, I appreciate that. Thank you. So I know that there's the soccer complex update that we just received. Ron, was there anything else that you had an update on?
Just two quick things, if I may, Madam Mayor. The first is we've been awarded a delegation with the Minister of Infrastructure next Wednesday during the EMO conference. We have a 15-minute time slot at 11:10 a.m. next Wednesday. So the staff, your staff, Jeff Little and Julie have been hard at sort of preparing a presentation for council members to make at that meeting. The second item, I had a regional IESO, which is the electricity organization, meeting last week, and we're actually part of the Perth and South and Huron County areas. So our hydro needs, or our hydro supply, comes from the north. So we don't actually gravitate towards London when it comes to power. We gravitate to the north. So although it says Perth and Huron County, we are actually part of that system when it comes to electricity. So all it is they've had these meetings usually once every 2 or 3 years, and they talk about what's happening as far as growth goes. They're particularly interested in any heavy industrial users that may come along. So it's just basically a meet and greet and what's happening in your community kind of thing. So we had that last week, or maybe even 2 weeks ago, July 27th. There's actually a public input session scheduled for August the 12th. That if anybody's interested, let me know and I can send you that link. It's not too exciting, but if you're interested, let me know and I can certainly forward that information to you. And that's all I had, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that, Ron. Tina, anything from your office?
Sorry. No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. Nothing from building finance, Catherine.
Thank you. I just have one verbal update. I think my report is on later up in the agenda. I just wanted to say that the final tax bills went out last Friday, August 6th. So everybody should have those by now, either by mail or email, depending on their situation. And 2 installments, one due the end of August and the other due the end of November.
Okay,
that's all I have.
All right, thank you for that. I don't believe there's any more planning, Dan, from your office. And so then that will take us to Jeff, Public Works, where we've got a number of reports in front of us.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. The first of 3 reports I'll bring forward is the Blake Drain addendum tender. We had to issue an addendum to the Blake Drain. It went out to 6. We had sent 6 out to invitees to tender on it, as well as we posted it publicly. We got 1 tender back. It was received on July 7th for the amount of $95,727.95, including HST. The tender bid was reviewed by Spreet Associates and was approved by them to move forward with. It is under the estimated price or estimated cost that they had originally looked at $124,700. This is a municipal drain, so it does not affect budget. It is assessed out to the landowners. Thank you, and any questions I can answer now.
Okay, thanks for that. Jeff, any questions on this report? I think I asked this on an earlier drain tender. And should there be concern that we only received the one? And I believe the answer was everybody's busy and has a lot of work these days. So that would likely be the reason we only received just the one bid.
Yeah, and Madam Mayor, and a part of it is also AG Hayter got the original tender.
Right, yeah.
So they're actually on site. So the good news is it's under budget, for its original estimate. So I'm comfortable with moving ahead with it.
Okay, thank you for that. So there's a recommended motion in front of you to authorize the tender. So if I could get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan. All opposed? And that's carried.
Madam Mayor, the second report we have tonight is the Asabo Field Stormwater Management Report. The purpose of this report is to bring forward a request by Asabo Fields development to use a portion of the parkland to use for stormwater control. Asabo Fields the development is located on Community Drive / Queen Street. It's a development that's planning to build 14 houses and 78 townhouse units in that area. The development will open up a portion of the road allowance currently undeveloped, and the site plan must have a stormwater management plan. There is an outlet to this property. It is the 1984 Hardy. It is a municipal drain. It is in good shape. And it basically starts right at the beginning of Community Drive and heads to the west out to the Little Asabo waterway. The Hardy drain, there is a significant amount of development around this Hardy drain, a portion of Main Street, as well as the arena, parklands, as well as our in front of our office building, and the buildings to the west of us all flow eventually through the 1984 Hardy. The master servicing study highlighted the need for a regional swim pond for this area because of this. It is an area that would be ideal to develop a swim pond facility, a regional one. However, without significant development downstream, it makes it very difficult to develop that facility right now. As part of that, the master servicing study recommends when upstream developments take place like this one, that low impact developments or LID be considered rather than a piecemeal approach for stormwater management. They actually recommend the use of LIDs on open road allowance or park space to be promoted. Asabo Fields development had begun the swim management, the stormwater management design, and has been coordinating with staff and Spreed Associates because the drain is a municipal, so Spreed is involved with it because they will govern the release rates into the drain. An option would be to create a lid on an area of the community center grounds up in the corner closest to the development where it's taking place. And the developer has requested to staff to see if we can use a portion of that area of the park. The area of that park is naturally low. It currently serves as an open green space. The lid at this location would remain open green space. There'll be grass to be maintained just as it is right now. It will not be designed as a retention pond. It'll provide an area for water to collect under a heavy rain, which then can be released into the Hardy drain at a slow rate, which the drain can take. Playing fields will not be impacted. The design would, the idea behind this is that the design should improve the park. There's no reason why trees, walkways, or other natural features can't be incorporated to promote the feeling of the park and give the benefit to the green space. Upon review with Spreetz Associated, they believe that the lid would work with the drain outlet and that there'd be no additional upgrades to the existing drain. One of the other options, if a lid was not used, would be large holding tanks. Not an uncommon practice. It's more of a long-term infrastructure than a lid. A lid can be very easily adapted as we progress. If we do end up with a facility downstream, a lid can be taken offline and revamped a lot easier than the larger in-ground holding tanks. So after this, with the BM Ross report, Spreetz report, I do recommend that council approve the use of the park to install a low impact development to control stormwater with the following conditions. 1, the manager of the park and recreation will assist in the design. 2, the final design will be approved by council. 3, the construction will be completed under a development agreement. 4, the area remains an open green space. 5, water depth or other design features will be of no safety concern to the public. 6, park and the area will be enhanced as part of the overall design of this. 7, an oil separator will need to be in place before the water can enter the lid. And 8, any additional environmental benefits and safety features will be considered and may be required as part of the design. Impacts to budget. The design, review, and construction will be part of the development. There will be no impact on the budget. Thank you, and I'll open it to council for questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Jeff. Just in the report that's in our package, there was another recommendation that ABC provide input to the option.
You're right. Sorry.
I just want, nope, that's all right.
Madam Mayor, yes.
I just wanted to highlight that for anybody watching. All right, any questions or comments on this report? Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Glad you're back. Just 2 questions for Jeff. Right now, where the red, I'm looking at the map and I'm seeing the red area there. Is that not where the community garden is right now?
Through the mayor, it's close to the community gardens, but the red area is up in the corner, and it'll just infringe. It won't infringe. That's the wrong wording. It will not at this point change any of the community gardens. There'll be no change in the community gardens. The design is pushed up into the southeast a little more than where the community gardens are.
Right. And I have one other question, Madam Mayor, if I may, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Just for Jeff, the number 8 oil separator. I'm not quite sure I understand what that's all about. Just for people that might be watching this, it's just a bit of a concern.
Yeah, no, and through the mayor, so that's a good question. So one of the things that we worry about, but we want to make sure we keep in the design is that we don't want contaminants coming into our park area. And one of the first ones, and this happens quite a bit, whether it's a development of a garage or a facility on the edge that controls our stormwater. You don't want that oil or process getting out into the environment. So that's one of the things that is just highlighted here before we allow stormwater to enter onto the park, that there'd be an oil separator. And it's an oil separator and grit separator. So it's a way of first combating some of the contaminants that could reach this area.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Manders.
So Jeff, I think I think I heard you right. It's not that big of a portion, but that portion, how it's being used today and how it's being used at the end of the development would be unbeknownst to the ratepayer. Correct?
Deputy Mayor, that's correct. So at the present moment, it's just open green space. You can walk across it with your dog. Is basically, you know, and it'll be the same way when this is installed. You'll be able to walk across it unless there's a large flood or a large rainstorm. You'll see some water back up, and generally, and I don't want to get into the complete design because that will come back to council. Generally, we're looking at 18 inches at the most, and that sort of thing. So there will be some ponding during a heavy rainstorm, but generally no. And then it dries out and goes back to grass, which will be cut just as Paul and staff are doing now.
And you felt, and can you clarify with me? It seemed like you alluded that there would, the one reason you do like this design was that it would actually help some of our drainers to flow, or do you like the way it would get to the drain, or can you just clarify that?
Yeah, Deputy Mayor, and maybe I'll pass to Paul because I did meet with Paul on site, and we did look at some of the infrastructure. There is a low spot on one of the soccer fields that we have an opportunity to tile and take into here and help. Maybe, and help. So there is when we did walk the area, there is opportunity to actually improve some of the other drainage areas in the park. I'm not saying it's going to improve the entire park because it's shut off in one corner, but there is a bit of an opportunity to improve that area of the park.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, did you want to jump in?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. If I may, just to echo that, that secondary soccer field, for a long time now, there's been an issue with drainage on that field. And one thing that we did look at for that, as well as the community gardens, at the south side of the community gardens, there often is ponding. So this may actually be a benefit to the grounds in both aspects for those two features that are well used.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My first question is this then like an interim, is it a temporary thing that gets removed later once there is a regional stormwater facility, or is this an ultimate thing that will remain?
Right now, I would use the word interim. The plan will be to have a long-term facility downstream, and at that time we can make the decision. That's probably the exact benefit of going with this, is the flexibility. If it's designed and we want to keep some walkways and some trees at the same time, it can be removed and made into a soccer field down the road, or a ball diamond if we needed it. So the flexibility, that's exactly, Councillor Hodgins, the flexibility of using something in this place.
Okay, may I follow?
Yep, absolutely.
I guess I'm trying to understand exactly what the LID is, because it sounds like it's a retention area for like major stormwater flows that would hold water that would infiltrate into the ground, but it also has this oil grit separator that would be an underground feature. So could you help us better understand what exactly the LID is and how it functions, if that's been determined?
So Councillor Hodgins, so the drain itself is an agricultural drain that we're using. So the release rates that can go into the drain, we have to control, and we have to control it over a broad spectrum of time, because we can't flood the people on the drain further downstream. Because this is the top end, it becomes very particular, and that's where Spreets comes in on release rates and release times. So one of the ways that are the traditional ways is just putting in a large storage facility where we just bank up the water and then we release it just like we have on a number of ponds around. In this case, what it's meant to do is be low impact, meaning that the water retention should not stay for any great length of time. It should leave soon as the water can drain away. It should go dry. It should be able to fill up during that heavy storm, retain that portion during heavy storm, and then go dry. We can incorporate, with the ABCA's guidance, we can incorporate water gardens, that sort of thing. If that's something we want to participate in, we can create different vegetations. We can create all sorts of ways for the water to soak into the ground, so it doesn't have to go into the drain, and that sort of thing. It's a design that's not supposed to be so infrastructurally heavy, and be a little more environmentally flexible. And I think it'll be better once the design comes through and council can review the design. I think that's where it'll come a little clearer and go from there. I hope I answered your questions. If not, I can always bring back some more information.
Are you good, Jaden, or do you have more follow-up?
Maybe one last quick one.
Yeah,
If I may.
sure, absolutely.
I guess just that the recommendation in front of us is council allow the area to be used for stormwater management purposes, and just wondering if I'm not sure what the process would be here, but if we get more details about what exactly it is we're proposing and I guess the feasibility of it prior to making this recommendation to allow the facility on the township's property. I'm not sure what the process is there. I'm not.
So, well, Jeff just brought up that he could bring more information back as to what it would look like, and maybe that's the piece that is missing, is that connection. So we could defer it. In deferring it, how does that play into the development or into the project itself? Jeff?
Well, at this present moment, they're getting ready to move into the design stage. They've already started looking at the design, but they're getting ready to move into the engineering side of the design. So I can talk to the developer and bring back, without going too far into the engineering side of things, we can go back in and bring back more information on exactly what we're talking about in size, maybe. I know Matt, the developer, is watching. He is part of the group here.
Okay. Deputy Mayor. Manders.
A couple things. I think I might be mistaken. One, maybe this alleviated my thinking a little bit. Jaden, is when Jeff said that basically this is information / they can proceed with at least having that as an option, and that our final approval is yet on a vote and then more discussion. I think it's more to give them this option to do their engineering, I believe, to proceed, as opposed to that we're sad that basically that we're okay with the with an easement on that small portion of land that'll help our community center if that is what they select. But whether that eases yourself or not, that eases my thinking a little bit on it. But that's one comment. Madam Mayor, that when I was with staff earlier, I didn't know when you were going to be coming in. Really realize this is not a public meeting. They did mention that Matt would be on the phone. Again, I'm not the chair, you're the chair. If the staff made me aware of that, if we wanted to call on Matt, just so you know.
Okay, all right, thank you. One I thought would be to maybe the other, and the deputy mayor just kind of alluded to rewording the recommended motion to maybe approve the use of the lands in principle. And then that would allow, I think, the developer to keep going forward as the deputy mayor said. So that we might want to consider using that language instead. I'm okay with bringing Mr. Van Giel on if anybody had questions to that. I'll look to my colleagues to see if that would be helpful. If we brought him on, for any clarification on what it might be. Dave, Deputy Mayor Manders, see, now you got me doing it.
Well, I guess, you know, you're right. I've mentioned about rewording that motion, which I don't think changes the motion too much, but at least I do think it changes a bit. When you said colleagues, I don't know if you meant staff or ourselves or everybody. Yeah. Certainly, if Matt wants to comment on that motion being read like that, I don't feel it changes anything. Like I say, we've still got the final with our staff. I mean, I like the benefits to the community center if this is the direction they go from what Jeff has said. But it certainly, if you're all right as chair, to have him just chime in on that motion, that at least we allow that as an option to be able to use that portion of the land in their studies or as a proposal going forward.
Sure. Okay. All right, Lisa, if Matt's on the phone, do you want to let him on? There he is. Okay. We can hear you, Matt.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council and staff here. I think maybe what I'll start with is just circling back to what Councillor Hodgins had asked and see if I can clarify exactly what this LID would look like. So from our engineers at Dillon, Councillor Hodgins, this is basically termed as a dry ponding area. So the idea is that you have a much larger area of land that stormwater can go into, which thus creates a much shallower ponding. I think Jeff alluded to 18 inches there, and that this area would all be properly drained with catch basins to a storm sewer. So you would only get actual ponding after a very large rain event, which then would quickly drain away through those basins. I don't know if that clarifies what the actual LID is or not, or if you have a follow-up question in regards to that.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Councillor Hodgins, did you have any follow-up to that? Or Jeff, did you want to say anything?
Maybe through the mayor. Yeah, it's not so much that we're looking for final approval here. It's more or less getting direction from council to proceed into looking into this, whether council will be open based on the design, and they would still have final approval on the design and on the situation. It's just to kind of give direction one way or the other if the developer can start looking into this.
Councillor Hodgins,
no further follow-up.
Okay, great, thanks. Deputy Mayor Manders.
Yeah, because really the question I think of council is the developers asking us for a piece of our taxpayers' property for an easement. And basically that's really, we're not approving the system or approving anything other than allowing them that portion that at least Jeff has satisfied myself that there's a net benefit to the community center with what Paul and Jeff has said. And that to me has helped me satisfy myself with the motion that there's a net benefit to our community on this, allowing this as a potential option or this easement. It's really all about the easement, not about even the functionality. The functionality, the system, we've got to rely on our planner and our staff and that on the system. But are we okay with land? Like that's why I wanted to verify with land that our ratepayers currently, how they use it today will be the same way they use it after. And that to me is the key. Anyway, so just my comment on that motion.
So would you feel more comfortable with the motion to have the word easement in there?
I'm gonna have a look here. The motion here now that Jaden's got me kind of second guessing maybe. Stormwater management for Saco Bay fields.
I saw Ron's hand up while you're looking at that, Dave.
Area.
Yeah, well, the deputy mayor is looking that up.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is that maybe council amend the wording in the recommendation to say something to the effect that council agree in principle to the proposal as outlined in report PW 17-2021. I think and the applicant, and Mr. Little can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the applicant doesn't want to go down a road and spend a bunch of money on engineering if that's not council's, if council doesn't agree with allowing the use of that area for this bit of LID facility. So they're just looking for a bit of direction before they spend a lot of money on a certain engineering plan. So like Mr. Little said, the final plans still have to be approved by council.
Okay. Matt, you've got your hand up. Van Giel.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just would agree with what Ron said there. That's exactly what we're looking for. We just want some direction that this area is acceptable before we get into too far into detailed design and detailed engineering and the expense of that. So
okay, perfect. Thank you. And Jeff?
Just one clarification on bringing easement into it. Actually, we will own this.
Oh, okay.
Once it's built, and it's just like any other storm water management system. We own it once the developer has built it. So I just want to make sure clarification there.
Thank you.
Sorry, that makes sense. I shouldn't. Yeah, gotcha. Gotcha. Yep, understood now. Yep.
Okay. So Ron, you just you reworded it to, and can you remember what you said? Or maybe Tina took notes. Council accepts the staff recommendation in principle to permit an area of the community center grounds to be used for stormwater management purposes.
Correct. Excellent.
Does that work for everyone? That wording?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Manders, and seconded by Councillor Hodgins. And any further discussion? All opposed? That's carried. Okay, thank you.
Okay, my last my last one, Madam Mayor, is the a report on the McGilvery Drive unopened road allowance. I've had a request by the two landowners that are on either side of this unopened road allowance. Both property owners have requested that they be given the opportunity to acquire this property. What there was precedent set, the township did do this on the road allowance east of this request. And that what we ended up giving, or not giving, I shouldn't say that, we ended up closing off a road allowance, and the owners to the east of this now have the property. So this property actually ends in the middle of a block. It doesn't really go anywhere now. So I met with both property owners on site. There's a couple of liability issues with some trees and some upkeep. There was a little bit of blurred lines between where property lines and liability issues with people working on township property. So I think when dealing with the owners, it became apparent that the first request or the first solution would be to see if council would be interested in closing off this road allowance and allowing the property owners to obtain it. The one thing that makes this a little more interesting is there is an old walking bridge that crosses the Little Sauble, and that would have to be owned by one property owner. It would not be able to be split due to responsibility. And they agreed on that, and it was 6044 McGilvery Drive was the one that requested the bridge. As for a reflection to the budget or impact of the budget, all costs will be split between the owners. There will be no cost to the taxpayer. There would be a slight savings in the future just because of some maintenance costs associated with owning a property that comes into effect. And other than that, thank you, and I'll open it to questions from council.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Any questions on this? Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sort of the first time I've come up against this. I'm just wondering why would property owners do this? What would be the purpose?
They just want to secure where the property lines are, and so that they don't, their feeling is they've got us stuck between them, and we don't really maintain that property. It's overgrown. It's to the point where they don't, we don't see it opening back up. Like, it's not going to lead anywhere. So it's a request from property owners. This is not an uncommon request. It happens at other municipalities as well.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Any other questions on this? Deputy Mayor Manders.
No, just this here one. I definitely living in Lucan all my life. It's been by this road and this area, and this makes sense. I mean, actually, I'm surprised the request has it come earlier or asked for by our staff. This actually makes a lot of sense, I think. So,
thank you for those comments. Any others? Councillor Hodgins.
I'm just curious about the bridge. I've never actually seen it in person, or I don't see any photos of it. And just wondering, if it's an old wooden bridge, if it has any, potential heritage value to it.
And through the mayor, I don't know exactly the history of the bridge. I have seen the bridge. I did. It is a walking bridge built on a stone foundation, so it is quite old. But honestly, Councillor Hodgins, I don't know the history of how it even got there, to be honest. I'm sorry, I don't have a lot more information on the heritage of the bridge.
Would it be a question for our friends at the museum and the Heritage Society? They probably know a little bit about it. Did you have follow up to that?
No follow-up.
Okay, thanks. Okay, any other comments? All right, there is a recommended motion in front of us, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder at this time. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all opposed? That's carried. Okay, before I move on to Parks and Rec, I'm not going to let you off the hot seat, Jeff. I had a question, and I figure rather than doing it in councillors' comments, I would keep it within your reporting, and that's just follow up from our special meeting that we had. I guess it was last week, with regards to the master service plan discussion, and just wondering what the next steps were, if that you needed direction from council to come back. I know we talked at the meeting as to what could happen next, but are you looking for direction from council to come back with a report? And yeah, I guess that's the question. Do you need direction, and what are the next steps?
Madam Mayor, my first step is the flow monitoring. I think the master servicing study, I think the number one thing that it pointed out was some of the loading of our sanitary mains. So I'm right now currently working on a scope of work to bring back to council on flow monitoring, and I'm hoping to have that to you by the 1st of September. And get that turned around back to you, because I think that would be something that I'd be looking for council's direction on to proceed, because obviously it wasn't in the 2021 budget, and it is a considerable. It'll be a bit of a value to it. So I'm going to try and get that back to council the 1st of September, because I think that's key. It's not. I shouldn't say that. I think it's key in our our overall plan for Lucan. It certainly is not, is just one, it is just one factor in how we proceed with the OP that's coming up. But I think it is one factor that we need to investigate. Some of the other things over the period of time, we'll start to bring forward more of the recommendations, start looking at more of the recommendations, particularly when we do our 5-year and 10-year and 20-year plans, and then of course budget discussions. The rest will follow. But I think it's key, Madam Mayor, that I get direction from council on the flow monitoring, which I hope to have to you next council meeting.
Okay, so that's at that point, that's when you would be looking for direction on. Yeah. And then, and I guess just for anybody watching, just to refresh that there is still that time period that residents or anybody can submit comment to the report. I think our consultants, they indicated that like the report's not going to change, but certainly any public comments will become part of that, and that they still have 30 days from that, the date of that meeting, to submit to Tina to get those comments in. And then I guess it would be after that, then the report would be resubmitted to council for our acceptance.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had on that one. I didn't know if council had any follow-up questions on that either. Okay.
I'll just say, if there's any, if you're reading it and you need any clarification, or if anybody, please contact me. I will, when I do bring some information back at the 1st of September, with that sanitary flows and that sort of thing, there'll be additional information on sanitary as well. We do have, prior to that, a special council meeting on the 24th with BM Ross, and we'll be going over the expansion. As a council, there'll be our first real meeting with BM Ross on the expansion of the sewage treatment plant. So I think that combination of things, the flows and the expansion, I think there'll be a lot of information come to council at the start of September, and we'll get a handle on the sanitary situation.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to Parks and Recreation. Paul.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The first report you see in front of you, the purpose of this report is to inform council of the results of the RFP for the Granton and Lucan Community Center playground structures. We put out an RFP for both projects, and we invited groups to submit up to 2 designs for each. Each group was required to utilize the maximum potential of the set budgets to ensure the best potential for quantity and quality equipment. The first group was, the proposals were first went through by a selection committee that then created a short list, which was then submitted to the public for a survey, which was greatly received. And then from there, a list of the top 3 designs were then weighted and submitted to AODA for comments. And it's important to note that although, and this comment did come out in the surveys, although in the Granton Park drawings, there's no swing sets, the swing sets are still there. They're in good condition, and as well as the standalone structure. And that was submitted to each of the proponents to be aware of for when they submitted their RFP for updated hardware and surfacing to bring them up to date for standard. So as you can see, there were several companies that supplied an RFP for both projects, and the final selections for Granton Park is Henderson Recreation Limited at $67,815.36, and the Lucan Community Center was Open Space Solutions, $124,655. And as you see, it's a wonderful Lucan design for that play structure. And with the added donation of the $4,500 from the Granton Playground equipment by the Granton Park Committee, both projects will come within the set budget for capital replacement.
Thank you, Paul. Certainly they're exciting. My goodness. They look like great structures. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Hodgins.
The question is, I guess, what happens with any old playground equipment? And is there any opportunity to reuse it in other areas?
Unfortunately, usually the replacement is due to life cycle. So we try to dismantle. We often save a lot of the steel to reuse for other projects, quick fixes, as we've got quite a handy staff in our parks department. But it has to be decommissioned. Some of the play structure, though, that is still in good working condition, such as swing sets, they can be reutilized as long as the hardware is up to date and still functional.
Okay, thank you. I recall seeing a comment on the new soccer fields that a little small playground area would be good there. So I thought maybe there was an opportunity, but thanks.
Yeah, I think it's always unfortunate when the equipment comes down that it has to come down. So, because I still think you see a lot of life left in it. But just, I guess, out of curiosity, where on the community center grounds would the playground be going?
It will be going kind of right in behind the batting cage between the baseball diamond and the soccer field and the pool. So it's still in that great central location for all the activities. We will be having to look into some netting, some safety netting along the ball diamond fence, as it is a pop fly zone. So, to increase our safety there. But it is really our best place with the new addition.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, then we've got the motion in front of us, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder on that, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. All opposed? And that's carried. Did you have anything else, Paul?
Yes, thank you to you, Madam Mayor. One important thing I'd like to mention, there's an important milestone this year for the YMCA childcare. It is the first year that the graduating class is the first group that has been there since the opening to now. So congratulations.
That's very exciting.
It's big for them. They're quite happy. So also this Friday, August 13th, we will be having our pop-up vaccination clinic here at the Lucan Community Center. It will be in the Lions Active Living Center, just to best accommodate camp and all the hundreds of kids running around doing hockey camps. It's important to note that everyone paying attention, it is Moderna, because it's 18 plus. We cannot do Pfizer for this one. So if you're under 18 of age, you cannot get a shot, but it's first doses, second doses, and we're really hoping to get a few more doses in people's arms. So please come out from that. It runs from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. as well, to just another great school supply fundraiser, as well as the one I mentioned earlier. The Holy Trinity Church on Main Street has sent me information. We'll put it up on our Facebook page on the 21st of August from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. They'll be doing a Fill the Step school supply drive. All the donations go to Elsie Craig Food Bank. Please consider donating peanut-free lunch, snacks, and school supplies, and monetary donations will also be accepted. Tax receipts will be available. So there's some great campaigns going on in our community for that. And other than that, we are just going along, booked solid. It's been very busy here. I know Councillor Hodgins, we haven't met yet, but I believe you do live nearby, and I'm sure you've seen the pandemonium. So it's great to have all the community back and enjoying our facilities again.
Thanks for that, Paul. I actually had the opportunity to be in the arena on Saturday after we did the dedication to the 2 benches by the Lions Arch. And I hadn't been in the arena for the year. And I have to congratulate and thank Paul, you and your staff for the work that you've done inside the building. The painting, the upgrades to just some high-end or fixture updates and things you've done in the change rooms. I think on the home side, the change rooms look great, and our minor hockey teams and our skaters will be happy to be in the facility. But certainly you put the pandemic time to good use because it looks really good. So thank you. All right. I guess, Jeff, did you have anything else besides, I didn't ask you, besides your 3 reports, anything verbal? No? Okay, good. Okay, moving on to economic development. Lisa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just the first report is just some general updates for everyone. The first point is updating everyone about our industrial land. Last month, the township repurchased a parcel in phase 1 as per the agreement of purchase and sale condition. And it will be retendered for September 10th. So you can see those probably will be issued this week with a closing date of September 10th. The next general update, of course, everyone knows about Summerfest 2021 with the 2 events, with the concert, which was sold out, and then the market is 27th, 28th of August. The council chambers, we are moving forward with installing a couple cameras in the council chamber so that when we eventually get to be in person around the horseshoe again, we'll still be able to live stream when we're not using Zoom. So that'll continue on with our accessibility and being able to people to watch our meetings at their pleasure. But in the meantime, before we get around that horseshoe again, we'll be doing a hybrid model, much like the county does, where some people will be at the office spread out, and then some people will still be at home, but we'll still be using the Zoom. So we're trying to do that for the second meeting in September. This is kind of the goal for that. The second report tonight I have is on Market Street revitalization and doing some new electrical work there. Paul and I have kind of talked about this over the last probably maybe 2 years, and then especially since we had the official lighting of the lights last winter. That kind of kicked off a lot of ideas about what could be happening at the park if we had maybe some better systems for electrical to hook up some lights, and also it would also benefit some of the events that we have there for future events. So we received a generalized quote from a local contractor about how much this could cost with a couple scenarios. After talking with Paul, we kind of went with the one best scenario, and that would be installing a new service at the corner of Beach and Market Street. As well as then it would provide some outlets along the pathways. So that would help for events if we have vendors that could plug in, as well as Christmas time, we could, that could be plugged into lights. So since this is kind of a new project, a new idea, we're discussing with Catherine how best to kind of fund this amount. So there's a few scenarios that we kind of presented to council for consideration. Staff maybe felt initially that the Bacon Fest reserves could be utilized for this amount, since that event would greatly benefit from having this electrical service installed. And there's a couple other options. Catherine had explained to me we could do tax stabilization fund, or we could always use the funds that we will have an excess amount of funds in the Canada Day budget, since we won't be using it all this year. So our recommendation is kind of, if we do move forward, to kind of maybe use the Bacon Fest reserves. But again, that's the report we're providing council for your direction.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Any questions on the report, the second report regarding the enhancements to Market Street Park? Councillor Westman.
I don't really have a question, but I do really believe this is a good idea. During Bacon Fest, we had a real power problem there, and that certainly would be a great benefit to have power distribution there. So I'd be in favor of doing it. I think using Bacon Fest money is appropriate because it'll get used by Bacon Fest in the future. So
Thank you for those comments. Any other feedback on this? I would tend to agree with Councillor Westman. I think it makes sense to use the Bacon Fest money for that. As Lisa pointed out, Bacon Fest and any event that's held in the park will be as a direct result from or will benefit from this enhancement. So using that money, I think, is only appropriate. Deputy Mayor Manders.
I do understand how you said just that report, just so you know,
Yes,
Madam Mayor.
yep.
I will have a question on the industrial lands.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yep.
But you had said just this.
Yep.
If there is anything that can do on the electrical, I think it's a great idea, by the way, also, rather than running generators and things like that, try to avoid that. But if there's, it's an added expense, if there's anything that can mitigate anything being vandalized, if anything can be looked at to mitigate vandalizing, anything we do install would be great to look at. Just a comment, or an appropriate comment, but where you're putting these things. But if there is an extra expense for that, it maybe wouldn't hurt to look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
And through you, Madam Mayor, I think the only time the service would be active is when there would be something happening. So it wouldn't just, people wouldn't be able to just go on and plug in anywhere. It'd just be activated kind of when we need it.
Okay, if there isn't any other comments or questions for this report, which the EDC-09-2021, there is a motion in front of us, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder on that one, please. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders, all opposed? And that's carried. Then going back to the general update one, Deputy Mayor Manders, you had a question?
Yeah, just maybe which is fine, maybe missed the boat on input or not. The industrial lands, do we have to accept the tender? Just wanted to clarify that. We don't have to accept what's submitted?
No, there'll be a condition within that tender that spells out those. We don't have to accept, the tender regardless. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was one question. The other question was, are we going to, it's very hard, as I've learned over the years, to hold anyone to their intent, or some people to their intent of the land. Will we be asking for that on this? What their intent is for the property for review with the price?
Yeah, Ron can speak to that one.
I can maybe take a stab at answering that, Madam Mayor. So through you to the Deputy Mayor, that'll be part of the proposal, because again, it's not just somebody buying the property. The intent, I believe, council's intent for the use of that property is to create assessment, commercial industrial assessment, and create jobs. So those two will be, the proposed purchaser will be asked to outline what their proposed purpose is of buying this. What is their intent? Because again, if you have one person A bids, I don't know, just use round numbers, $100,000 for the lot, and just wants to put up a storage building, and person B will pay $90,000, but they're going to put up a little mini manufacturing plant that's going to employ 5-10 people. I would suggest that that's a vastly different scenario, and that last $10,000 is not, I would recommend to council that if the intent is to create employment, that extra $10,000 is not going to be recovered from the higher purchase price.
I agree.
It would more satisfy council's aim for the property, going with the second purchaser for $90,000, where he's going to create jobs and have a bigger, more expensive and valuable business out there.
And it's cleared out. It's very clear, I guess, on anybody that isn't aware of it as the site plan or some form of action within 2 years, or we purchase it back. Was there any talk of staff of shortening that up to a year or 18 months, a year and a half? Was there any discussion of that, changing it?
It's through you, Madam Mayor. That's a tough one, because again, timelines, 2 years seems like a long time, but when you start planning a business and things like that, it's actually not that long. So that wouldn't be my recommendation, but I mean, ultimately it's up to the members of council. If you want us to try and shorten it, we can certainly put that out there, but and maybe Mr. Fitzgerald, you can chime in here, but really 2 years it's not that long when you're planning a business and trying to get things moving.
No, that's fine. Actually, I mean, I'm satisfied with that. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this? Maybe just further to this, so the tender, so who's going to, how are they, I guess, how are they all going to be assessed? And who's going to do that? Ron?
Well, Lisa and I have to talk about this yet, but where my head is at is that the lawyers will receive them just for legal purposes only. They will open them, summarize them, then they send them to staff so we can have a look at it, and then we'll present a report to council. So there will be no, ultimately council has to make the decision, but we'll sort of summarize what each person or what each proposed purchaser is willing to pay, and then what their proposed building is going to look like, employment numbers, that kind of thing, to give you a full picture in order so that you can make a decision.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right. Any other questions on the first report that Lisa had? With that, then there is a motion to receive EDC-08-2021 for information. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Regan, all opposed? And that's carried. Did you have anything else, Lise?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councillor comments. Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two very quick ones. I've received a number of very positive comments about the new traffic light, how it adds to sort of breaks in the traffic as people are going downtown, and for public safety. I did mention that it was a joint effort, several levels of government involved, but I was told to pass on their compliments from my neighbors to council for a job well done. The second thing I would like to do is I just wanted to thank everybody who's picked up the slow down signs. I did a little tour through Lucan Biddulph, just trying to check. I was just checking to see where all the signs were. This is what happens when I'm not teaching and I'm off for a month. So I was checking out the signs, but just wanted to thank everybody. I know there was a great, and Jeff could probably speak better to the numbers, but I know there was a great deal of interest in that. It looks like it's they're well distributed. And again, number of comments and compliments about the design. It's very Lucan Biddulphish, if that's an actual term. So those are my only comments this evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that. Any other councillor comments? Councillor Westman.
A couple things. I wanted to thank Jeff and the Public Works guys for getting on. There was a little bit of a washout at one of the catch basins in Granton, and I got reported to by a ratepayer, and the guys were around. They knew already, but they were around very quickly and fixed it. And thanks again for making us look good there, guys. Appreciate that. The other thing is I'm glad to hear that the locates are done so we can get our posts put up in the next week or two for the radar signs in Granton. So again, thanks to Jeff for all the hard work and his team getting the approvals and getting the locates done and all that. It's we're very grateful for all you guys do. That's an amazing thing. So thanks so much. All right.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Manders. Jeff.
Madam Mayor, just to follow, to Councillor Westman's, we do have the posts, where hopefully the posts are being installed later this week, and our speed signs in Granton are going to go up, whether it's the end of this week or first of next week. We should have them up and running and going, which is a good thing. And just a reminder, we do have the two other speed signs out and about in the communities. One's on Stonehouse Road right now, and another one's on Saintsbury. We'll be shifting them up again in about a week. certainly drop me an email for any suggestions of roads out there. I certainly would be open to suggestions.
Okay, thanks for that. And Deputy Mayor Manders?
Yeah, so we're gonna use my time on a forgotten question to Jeff. Jeff, one last question I'm getting asked on Saintsbury, and that it's weird. There's a stretch there, I think across from Francis there, where they didn't repave, and that's the question plaguing humanity.
And through the mayor, to Deputy Mayor, that has been, we asked for that not to be paved because that'll be the next section on Saintsbury that gets urbanized. And unfortunately, we wanted to include that in the contract with the MTO, but it just through everything, it didn't work out that way. So hopefully, if everything plans out, we'll start urbanizing and finish off Saintsbury. But we thought there's no sense putting down a coat of pavement and ripping it up in 8 months because we got to do some work there. So there was no sense wasting taxpayers' money on something that would then end up looking like a piece of meal put all together, a piece of puzzle. So so we asked the MTO not to pave that.
And then it is something though you feel will be done in the next 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing the engineering. We're finishing up the engineering on Saintsbury, and it'll come to council's. It'll come to council when they want to approve that project. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Thank you. That was all.
Any other councillor comments? Okay, so then we'll go on to changes to budget. And this is a report coming from Catherine. Did you want to speak to it, Catherine?
Yeah, I can.
Yep.
So this is an amendment in regards to the fundraising campaign in respect to the phase 2 renovation of the community center. So last month there was a fundraising committee created, and that has met a few times. And through those discussions and some of the plans they have to start a fundraising campaign, there's always a question of, well, how do we pay for some of these initiatives in regards to, right now it's like communication, or there could be some other things that they have.
Catherine, you're kind of
determined that typically,
Catherine, you're kind of
you're
cutting
gonna
out.
use
So
some of your fundraising dollars to help pay to bring in those dollars. So what this report is about, sorry.
You're just cutting out a bit, Catherine. I wonder if you
Can't
turn
hear
your
me?
camera. You're just glitchy. I wonder if you turn your camera off, if that might help.
It's not good.
We can hear you, yeah, but it's just a little.
Can you hear me? Is it good now?
Well, let's give it a try.
Kathy's frozen to me.
Oh, then I think it might be
better. Or is
Yeah.
there's background noise? Well, in the end, a budget. There's some, and I can't stop it. Is it still bad? Really bad?
Well, no, you seem a little bit better now.
Okay, I'll just do it really fast. All the information's in the report you can read, but it's just to get council to endorse approving a new line in the budget so that it's very transparent. Everyone can see what the fundraising is about. So the number is $20,000 that came up with the committee. We'd like to add, but so that's the base of it. So we just have to change that so it's transparent. And I'm gonna, once we know a goal, fundraising goal, that'll be the revenue side of things. So it won't be any taxpayer dollars involved with it. And so it won't, and the funding goal will be hopefully significant more than $20,000. And we won't know the fundraising goal until we get an idea what the project cost is going to be and how we put all the final numbers together. So, but any difference then we'll put into a reserve that will you use for the project. And that's how I will end up balancing the budget. And you can't see me, but
but we got that. So thanks very much for that. And I guess just for anybody watching that might have missed that, the point of this line item is to show the expenses of the campaign. So printing, packaging, all of that sort of thing. And because, as Catherine said when she started, with fundraising and development, there's always a cost to that. So where does that money come from? So, the committee wanted to be quite transparent in, how the money was being spent, what kind of money was being spent. And so this just provides that line item so that it can be seen. Any questions on that? Okay, so there is the motion that the budget amendment be put through, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder on that, please. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All opposed? And that's carried. Any notices of motion? So we'll go into our motions. So the first motion is that Council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph receive the attached accounts as paid for information as follows. And it's for July 2021 for $1,389,376.78. A mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan. All opposed? And that's carried. And then whereas the Township of Lucan Biddulph will be hosting Summerfest event on Friday, August 27th and Saturday, August 28th, 2021 at the Lucan Community Memorial Center. And whereas exemption from the Township of Lucan Biddulph's noise bylaw is required to allow for noise which may surpass the allowed levels during the hours of 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday, August 21st. Therefore, it be resolved that the provisions of the noise bylaw shall not apply during the Summerfest fireworks event on August 27th, 2021. And a mover and a seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Hodgins, all opposed, and that's carried. And that if no one cares to speak to these bylaws on its first, second, and third reading, that it be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, read a third time and passed, and that it be numbered bylaw 56-2021, the confirming bylaw, and a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders, all opposed, and that's carried. And just before I call for adjournment, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Manders, again for stepping in while I was not able to attend the beginning. Thanks for doing that. So resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at 8:13. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Regan, Councillor